Our friend Glenn from Glenn's Retro Show, in cooperation with Arcade Workshop, sent over his latest creation, the Build-A-Cade. The Build-A-Cade is a 1/6 scale multi-cade that you assemble yourself. The assembly process will take about an hour to an hour and a half your first time doing it, but it's an easy build and very well thought out. There is a lot to cover in this video. If there are sections you're not interested in, I place chapter markers below so you can quickly skip to areas of interest. In the sections that follow, we'll discuss the features, unbox the kit, assemble it, set up the operating system, show you 2 ways you can install games, then we'll try out a few, along with a few surprises that you'll find out later in the video. I'm John, and welcome to Wagner's Tech Talk. The Build-A-Cade is an impressive product with a lot of features. SpecBot, would you mind letting us know what they are?
Sure, John. I'd be happy to. 1/6 scale mini arcade. Add your own games. 4.3. Vertical IPS display. Control panel with joystick and 3 buttons. Coin door with 2 buttons. 3.5mm headphone jack. Illuminated marquee. HDMI video output. Pi 3 only. X2 USB ports. Stereo speakers. Volume control dial. Safe shutdown button. Rechargeable battery. 32GB micro SD card with OS installer. Back to you, John.
Thank you, SpecBot. Before we unbox the Build-A-Cade, I want to make you aware that a guide is being developed that has additional information that may be helpful to you. I'll place a link in the video description below if you want to check it out. A video such as this one is static. The guide will be updated long after this video. We'll now open the box and see what's included in the kit. The package includes a manual that will step you through every aspect of the assembly process, and it's very well done. The side panels include vinyl artwork, which may also be swapped out using third-party artwork if you prefer. The plastic components are high quality, injection molded, and very solid. A 4.3-inch vertical IPS display is included, as well as a micro SD card that uses pin light to download and install the latest GRS image to the card. There is a micro SD extension for easy access to the card, artwork for the marquee, control panel, and bezel, a GPIO wiring harness to simplify all the connections, cabinet panels and artwork, a mount for the display. Under the next level of the package, we have all the hardware needed for the assembly, a DSI cable for connecting the display to the Raspberry Pi, a very cool control panel with player 1 and 2 buttons, and a single action button. These are interchangeable with additional panels that include more buttons, spinners, and trackballs. The bezel plastics, a coin door assembly with a headphone jack, joystick tops, rubber feet, and a dust cover for the joystick, marquee mount plastics, a battery holder bracket, an impressive back panel that includes a joystick for navigating the menus, volume control, on and off switch, USB-C power input, 2 USB ports, and an HDMI port that works with a Raspberry Pi 3B or 3B+. Under the last layer of the package, you'll find a set of extender cables, an HDMI cable, an acrylic display cover, front cabinet plate, a base plate, a plate for the marquee, top cabinet plastics, and a 4500 mAh battery to power the unit. Now let's move on to the assembly. I've laid out all the components on the workbench that we'll be using to assemble the Build-A-Cade. As this is my first time putting it together, I will be following along with the included instruction manual, and the manual is extremely well done and very clear. To assemble the Build-A-Cade, you will need one component that is not included, and that is a Raspberry Pi. At the time of this video, they are very difficult to find. I will be using a Raspberry Pi 4, however you can also use a Pi 3, 3B+, or a Pi 3A+. I'll place the step or steps being covered in the upper left of your screen. First, we'll assemble the rubber feet to the base plate. Just remove the adhesive and affix them to the plate. Next, we'll apply the artwork to the screen bezel. I did a quick check to make sure I knew which way the artwork should be positioned, then remove the backing and position the artwork over the bezel as shown here. Once positioned, then remove the clear plastic film over the top. We'll now take the artwork for the marquee and go ahead and remove the plastic film cover from both sides of the acrylic marquee. Then remove the backing to the artwork and apply it to the marquee panel as shown. Once applied, remove the clear plastic film over the artwork. Now we'll install the battery into the K1 bottom. Place the battery into the base such that the connector is on the opposite side of the arrow etched into the plastic. Position the battery strap over the battery, then secure it with the two M3 by 8 mm self-tapping screws. Then set the assembly off to the side for later installation. Remove the protective film from the display and set it face down on a soft flat material such as the top packaging shown here. Position it so that the DSI connector is at the top, then attach the screen mount, and then install the four M2.5 by 5 mm screws. Place the bezel such that the overhang is at the top, then place the screen assembly over the bezel and secure the mount to the bezel with four M2.3 by 6 mm screws. We'll now take the shorter of the two standoffs, those that are 10 mm, and install four of them into the Raspberry Pi mounting holes on the back of the display. Gently raise the black plastic tab on the DSI connector on the display and insert the DSI cable such that the black strip is facing the top. Then lock it into place by pressing down on the black tab. Now we'll firmly insert the microSD card extension cable into the slot on the Pi. Position the Raspberry Pi such that the Ethernet connector is on the opposite side of the overhang. Now install the four 20 mm standoffs into the holes on the Raspberry Pi. Again, gently flip the latch on the Pi display connector. Insert the opposite end of the DSI cable into the connector, and then lock it into place by pressing down on the black tabs. Take the plastic bag with the angled cables and plug in the power connector, the 3.5 mm audio cable, and if you're using a Raspberry Pi 3, you can go ahead and connect up the HDMI cable. Now we'll install the GPIO wiring harness. Looking at the labels on the wires, we'll find which one is pin number 1. Gently install the GPIO connector such that pin 1 is on the opposite end of the Ethernet and USB ports as shown here. Now we'll begin putting the cabinet together. Lay the left side panel down and insert the screen assembly into its slot. Now take the two marquee mounts and the marquee itself and position it into the marquee channel on the panel. Looking at the control panel, at the back you'll find a 14-pin connector. Attach the connector from the wiring harness to the panel and position it into the channel on the side panel. Position the bottom panel into the channel. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and clean the fingerprints that I've added during handling. Now remove the protective film from both sides of the acrylic bezel and go ahead and insert it into the slots. Set the right side of the cabinet firmly over the top of the assembly. Make sure all the pieces are set into place. Rotate the unit around, and then take the top panel and slide it into the tracks and push it flush to the front of the cabinet. You may need to apply a little gentle pressure to lock it into place. We'll rotate it around again and take the bottom K1 assembly and slide it into the tracks with the arrow facing the front of the cabinet. And now we can stand the unit upright and take a quick look at what we've accomplished so far. We're in the home stretch now. Take the LED panel and connect the 2-pin connector from the wiring harness, and then go ahead and slide the panel into the tracks. Now take panel J and move all the wiring towards the top of the unit and slide the center brace into place. Now we'll take the USB extension cable and go ahead and insert them into the two USB ports on the Raspberry Pi. We'll now assemble the coin door. Take the 8-pin connector from the wiring harness and route it through the opening at the front of the cabinet. Then attach the connector to the coin door assembly. Place the unit flat and install the 2 grooves over the front, and then hold the jack cover to make sure it isn't being pinched, and then push down on the top of the coin door to lock it into place. Now we'll take the back panel, L1, and attach the micro SD card connector using the 2 M2.3 by 6 mm screws. Now take the HDMI cable and slide it into the slot and secure it with 2 M3 by 8 mm screws. Next, plug in the audio cable into the jack on the PCB. Attach the main wiring harness cable, the USB extension cable, and the USB power cable. Make sure the power is in the off position and plug the battery into the PCB. Since HDMI output is supported on the Pi 3 and not the Pi 4, I'm just going to slide the cable into the cabinet, then set the unit upside down and position the cover, making sure no wires are being pinched. Then install the 6 M3 by 8 mm screws. We'll now set the cabinet upright. Remove the backing to the control panel artwork and go ahead and affix it to the control panel. Now peel off the protective film from the panel. Insert the joystick dust cover over the stick. Twist the ball onto the joystick. Set the cabinet on its side. Go ahead and peel the adhesive backing off the vinyl side art and apply it to the side of the cabinet. Remove the protective film and then repeat for the opposite side of the cabinet. Now plug in a USB-C charging cable and take the micro SD card and insert it into the slot at the back. Now let's move on to the software. For the initial software setup, you will need a USB keyboard. Go ahead and plug it into one of the available ports on the back of the unit. Flip the power switch to the on position. The system will now boot up, and the installer uses PIN to download the image. Using the joystick and fire button, close the dialog stating no network access. Select your Wi-Fi SSID, and using the keyboard, go ahead and type in your passphrase for your network and press enter. Using the joystick, navigate to the Build-A-Cade option. Select it by pressing the A button, and then click the Install button. You'll be prompted to confirm it's okay to overwrite the existing microSD card. Select Yes. The installation will now begin. The operating system will be downloaded from the internet, and this process may take a little while. Once complete, click the OK button to reboot the unit. You'll then be greeted by this cool little intro. From there, Emulation Station will start up. All the button configuration and mapping has already been taken care of for you, and the games will be automatically categorized based on the supported controls. There is one licensed game included, The Adventures of Robbie Roto. This is a game I'm not familiar with, but let's take a quick look. To insert a credit, press one of the coin door buttons, then press the one player button to start. Here we go. I clearly need some practice with this game. Let's move on to something I do know a little bit more about, how to copy your own games to the Build-A-Cade. In this segment, we'll discuss two main methods to copy your games over to the Build-A-Cade. The first will be to copy games over the network, the other using a USB stick. Use whichever method you prefer. Let's get started with the network copy. For this next step, you will need a keyboard connected to the back of the Build-A-Cade, power on the machine, and select Options. From there, scroll down till you see Wi-Fi. You'll be prompted to set your Wi-Fi country. Select Yes from the keyboard and press Enter. Now move down until you see the localization options and press Enter. Select WLAN Country options and press Enter. You can page up or down until you've highlighted your country. I'll select mine and press Enter. Then press Enter on the dialog. Then the Tab key and select Finish and Yes to reboot. Once rebooted, you can then go into the Options menu and then select the Show IP option, and you'll see your IP address. Now from your PC, open File Explorer. At the top bar, enter / RetroPie or the IP address of the Build-A-Cade and press Enter. You should see the following shares. The one we're interested in is the ROM share. Navigate to the Arcade folder, and there you'll see the licensed game with the file name robbie.zip. From here you can open another instance of File Explorer, locate the games you want to copy, select them, and drag them over into the Arcade folder on your Build-A-Cade. Once the games have been copied, press the P1 button, move down to Quit, and select Restart Emulation Station. Your games will now appear in the list. Keep in mind some of the older games may require samples. For those games, copy the samples into the BIOS MAME 2003 Samples subfolder. Now, let's check out the USB copy method. I prefer to use Raspberry Pi Imager for formatting a USB stick as FAT32. See the link below if you don't have it. Insert the USB stick in your computer that you want to use to transfer games from your PC to the Build-A-Cade. Launch Pi Imager, select Choose OS, scroll towards the bottom and select Erase. Now click the Choose Storage button and select your USB stick. Then click the Right button and click Yes to reformat the USB stick as FAT32. Once done, click Continue and close out of Raspberry Pi Imager and safely eject your USB stick. Using File Manager, select the USB stick that you just formatted, right-click, and then select New, Folder, and name the folder RetroPie, all lowercase, and again safely eject the USB stick. Now we'll let RetroPie create all the subfolders we need. To do that, just plug the stick into one of the available USB ports for about 2 minutes or until the LEDs stop blinking. Then remove the stick and reinsert it into your PC. Now when we go to the USB stick and then RetroPie, we can then go to ROMs and Arcade, and this is where we'll copy our games. Open another instance of File Explorer and select your game ROMs that you want to copy over to the USB stick and ultimately over to the Build-A-Cade. Once copied, safely eject your USB stick. Again, insert the USB stick. This time, leave it plugged in for about 5 to 10 minutes or until the LED on the USB stick turns off if it has one. Once the games have been copied, press the P1 button, move down to Quit, and select Restart Emulation Station. Your games will now appear in the list. Keep in mind some of the older games may require samples. For those games, copy the samples into the BIOS MAME 2003 Samples subfolder. Launching a game is very easy. Simply select the game from the list and press the fire button. Now we'll check out some gameplay, starting off with one of my favorites, Time Pilot. Press the coin door to insert a credit, and the Player 1 button to start the game. There are optional panels available as well that let you play even more games using the Build-A-Cade. There is a trackball with 3 action buttons, a spinner panel, dual sticks, and a panel with 3 action buttons and a joystick. You can also adjust the sensitivity of the analog controls according to your preference. It's all described in the manual. To demonstrate, I'll play a quick round of Millipede using the trackball. Now let's swap the panel over to the spinner. Swapping panels takes a little bit of practice. Remove the back cover, disconnect the USB ports, then partially slide out the middle section, as well as the bottom section. Then pull the sides outward to allow removing the control panel. Remove the panel itself, disconnect the data and the power cable if needed. I'll now install the spinner control panel by connecting the power and the data cable. Then position the control panel and the coin door panel into the side canals and then push everything together. To lock everything into place, slide the middle section in and the same for the bottom. Replace the back cover panel and then reinstall the screws and you're done. With the spinner panel installed, let's play some Tempest. You can also use the spinner with racing games. Let's check out Pole Position. We've reached the end of another video. I realize it was a bit long, but I prefer to provide you with all the information you need to make an informed decision and to demonstrate as much as possible. I have a number of mini arcade machines that play 1 to 2 games apiece. I really enjoy those machines, but this is the first that provides USB and network capability for adding new games, the ability to swap control panels, easily moddable, and for a price that's about 40% cheaper than I paid for just one of my other mini arcades, though you will need to supply your own Raspberry Pi. I fully expect the Build-A-Cade to be one of the hottest items available for the retro gaming community and is backed by a company we know we can trust. After all, it's a GRS product. If you're wondering how much I'm enjoying the Build-A-Cade, I'll let you in on a little secret. As a thank you for watching this far into the video, I purchased 2 more Build-A-Cades, but they're not for me. Instead, I'll be giving them away on my channel at some later point once they arrive. I'm so sure that you're going to enjoy the Build-A-Cade that I want to give a few of them away, so definitely keep an eye on the channel for that. In addition, I want to support the awesome work the GRS team is doing. What do you think of the Build-A-Cade? Are you going to pick one up? Please leave a comment below with your thoughts and opinions. I enjoy hearing what you have to say. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please click the like button. If you don't want to miss any future content like this and many others, click the subscribe button. And with that, I look forward to talking with you again very soon.